Here we are live. I'm feeling those Friday vibes today. Welcome to It's My Friday. My name is Scott Stanfield. I am a modern longevitarian. And on today's show, I have none other than the body alchemist, the first son of Philly, the host of the De La Fit podcast, my friend, SunMoon Bay. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, man. First of all, I love that intro. It reminds me, it's got that Saturday Night Live type of vibe. You know, I'm like, man, I'm feeling this. Kind of got me grooving and everything. All right.
Yeah. You know, thank you very much, man. I worked on that. This is something that came up this week, and I was just like looking for some music to really set it up and something to really like, hey, we're getting ready for liftoff, right?
Right.
You know, with the rocket strapped to your back, right? How are we going to do this, right? And no, it does have a cool jam, man. It's like music's such an important thing, man. It like changes your mood, right?
Definitely.
Like for instance, this whole thing with Dreams. I didn't even plan on talking about this. Dreams with Fleetwood Mac. Have you seen this going viral on TikTok and all that stuff?
No.
So this album came out in 1977, Fleetwood Mac, and there was like this. I mean, it's about the same time you've got Eagles happening and things like that, right? And so this guy on TikTok, he's skateboarding. I don't even know where he is. He takes a swig out of this Ocean Spray cranberry juice, right? And he's listening to this song. He's jamming. He's like on a skateboard. He's like checking the traffic out as he's going. And then right when it gets to the chorus, he just starts lip syncing the chorus, right? Okay. Well, this video's gone viral. There's been so many remakes of this, right? And this song released in 1977 is in the top 10 right now because this video went viral, right? And it goes to prove, right? And I even I Googled, why is this viral? And I found the video, and it was of all places, VanityFair.com has an article on why this has all gone viral, right? It's like what I'm reading, right? And it's like, well, just like we're so stressed out, we need like to listen to this song called Dreams, right? And it does. It just has that boom, it just has that like relaxing thing. And I've been listening to it a bunch because I love Fleetwood Mac, right? And I've always loved older music, James Taylor and Jim Croce and the Eagles and all kind of stuff like that. And
it takes you to that space, that relaxing, calm space, where things are just where it was better times.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so I was listening to my wife's like, why are you listening to this so much? And I was like, music's an external mantra, right? It sets you into a mood, right? It's almost like meditation, right? Because meditation, like I practice transcendental meditation, which has an internal mantra. You don't say it out loud. It's an internal mantra, right? And, our thoughts repeat themselves 60 to 70, or we have 60 to 70,000 thoughts a day. 95% of them are the same as the day before, right?
Very true.
Yeah.
I mean, music has always been, it's part of human culture, period. I mean, whether it was wartime, peacetime, making love time,
right.
those special moments. It's, man, it can even help heal you.
Yeah.
I mean, it could definitely help heal you, just like laughter.
Right. Exactly.
Those things have so much power.
Laughter is actually massaging your internal organs. It does do that, right?
Yes,
and,
it does.
It's funny because when your endorphins run out, you're like, stop. It hurts, right? Because I guess that's the importance of our hormones. That's what endorphins do, right? That's a runner's high, or I saw you doing pull-ups on Instagram the other day, and I was, it's like,
that was my morning coffee. That's my, I call my morning coffee.
that'll do it, right?
Yes.
That definitely will. For me, it's push-ups, right?
Okay.
Yeah. Doing the Wim Hof method, where you do like 30 to 40 like controlled hyperventilation, and then the last breath you exhale, and then because your body's so alkaline, you can do more push-ups than you could normally do, right? I've done believe it or not, I've done 60 push-ups without breathing.
I believe it. And wow, that's some training.
That's the very first time was like 22, right? That was the very first time, right?
Okay.
On average, I do probably somewhere, depends on where I do it. If I do multiple breathing rounds before that, I can easily get above 50, right? But I've been working on planche, pseudo planche, so my hands have been further down and doing more weight. And today I did 22 without breathing, and then I did another 5 after that. But I gotta ask you,
explain that to people as to why, because I know individuals out there are probably going to be like, why would you do it without breathing? But there is a purpose for these things.
There is, right? And it's funny. You're asking me questions. I can tell you're the podcaster, right?
No, because I know I'm there with you, and I'm just like, I know somebody's going to be like, why would you do these things without breathing? It's like there's a method to madness.
Well, there's a couple things, right? I mean, I think the first thing for mindset is to to really prove to myself that these things are possible and really test the limits of what my body is capable of doing, right? I think that's the first thing, is really like, okay, what am I, like, going into the cold? It's supposed to snow 3 inches here tomorrow, right?
Okay.
All right. I've got a bottle of organic cranberry juice, right? So I can mimic that whole video, but I'm going to use organic and then talk about the importance of drinking organic juice versus ocean spray, toxin-filled cranberry juice, right? That's
great. It's very important.
So those things like that, right, are important, right? So testing my body, that's the first reason. And the second reason is that it's actually it's the push-up hack of all hacks, right? All right, because if you can increase your max by 20 or 30 without pain, right? Your body you now mentally know that you can do 60 push-ups, right, without stopping, right? And you now know that you've seen that by alkalining your body, what the importance of living an alkaline diet is, or lifestyle is, which you being a vegan, you know that more than anybody.
Yes.
Right. Because people who eat meat and cheese and dairy and those things are putting acidic type foods in their body, and so it's healthy because you're alkaline in your body. And I'll be honest with you, what it does is physically, what it does is it releases adrenaline, right? And I came up with this the other day, is like, I'm an adrenaline microdoser, right?
Okay. I was talking to my mom yesterday. We were talking about adrenaline junkies. So it's interesting that you're saying that. So yeah. I want to hear where you're taking this.
Well, I used to be an adrenaline junkie, right? Because I raced go-karts, right? I was, gosh, at 15, I was going, 70, 80 miles an hour on a go-kart at a couple inches off the ground, no seat belt. I've been thrown, 20, 30 feet, slid on my back across the track, been in accidents and those type of things. And went out and finished, I'd finished 5th in the next race 15 minutes later, right? Stuff like that. And so, when it comes to that type of stuff, I'm all in on a calculated risk, right? And really doing those things. But now when you look at this as from a longevitarian standpoint, it's the tortoise beats the hare, right?
Right.
So I'm not so much into like for instance, I'm a hiker. I'm not a mountain biker. Mountain bikers live to go downhill and get that adrenaline rush. Right.
That's true. I used to do that. I used to be a mountain biker.
Yeah, exactly. Or I'm a hiker, right? I enjoy the uphill and the downhill, and understanding that I'm looking at this from a 50-year standpoint. I'm like, what am I going to be at 98? Right. And how can I preserve my body in those things? Well, what happens is, with the Wim Hof method, when you're microdosing on adrenaline, it releases white blood cells and increases your immune system and those type of things. So there's a mental aspect of this. Then there's a physical like pushing the limits of what your body's capable of doing. And then the third thing is that there's actually a response, a hormesis, or what doesn't kill you makes you stronger response, right?
Very true.
And so those are the things that I'm doing. And then there's also like this body composition change, right? You know, those type of things, right? Where I'm 48 and a half, right? I'm not really counting the half. I'm saying I got 18 months or less to go before I get to 50. And I want to be able to do a full on planche push-up and a pistol squat, both legs, before age 50. So I'm literally like training my body that I can do more planche push-ups in that segment of the morning than I can in a more designated workout, right? And there's also this every hour on the hour type thing where you can train your nervous system to type of things.
That sounds like the Pablo method. Yeah. That's
the evil Russian push-up program.
Right. That's how I trained my pull-ups. That's literally how I've been training pull-ups, especially after I think we talked about this before. I hurt my lat muscle, the insertion between where the tricep, right just under your arm, and the lat muscle connects, that little section up in there. All right. And going a little too hard, too heavy, and had to wait about good 4 months, let my body heal, get myself back into it. Now that's where I'm going to train myself back to being able to knock out sets of 20, just sit down, I feel like I can do them, over time throughout the day. So yeah, it's a great method. It's a great method for strength training.
It is. And I actually, when I got back from California, I'm in Utah, Park City, Utah now. And that's where my family was. My house is here. And I was working in California. And so I got furloughed, came back, and I was on this self-quarantine, right, in the spare bedroom, right? And my son said, "Hey, Dad, you're going to be in there for 2 weeks. Why don't we do the evil Russian push-up program?" Right. And I was like, okay, I can't leave this room, right?
Right.
The whole world's been shut down. Why not? So I went from 45 to 66 push-up max in 2 weeks.
Nice.
Yeah. Nice. Doing that. Right.
Nice.
And so we've done it on and off for years actually. And this is something I didn't discover. Now I think there's a guy, former Navy SEAL, his name's Steve Smith. He's a trainer. He has a similar program to this. But Paval's was actually, when my son started homeschooling, one of his friends he'd gone to school with, he's like, "Well, you're going to be homeschooled. Now you could just do the evil Russian push-up program." And so that's how I found it, was through it was like 7th grade, right? He's coming home with this. I'm like, okay. So, nice. And he's graduated now. So we've been doing this on and off. And actually, since I've been furloughed, I've done a lot of different things. I did ab roller. I did the ab roller. I did the ab roller for 6 weeks straight.
Oh God.
Every hour on the hour, or every 30 minutes, alternating every hour or every 30 minutes for 6 weeks.
That's an evil thing to do, sir. It's an evil thing to do.
My core is like so strong now, though, compared to where I was before that.
Of course, because I tortured your core.
So I still am on my knees. I haven't got to the point where I do a full plank rollout, right? But I do but now I can roll out and I can hold it for like 20 seconds, full extension, like that. It's crazy. Yeah. But here's a funny story, right? Talking about progression and your own unique journey and those things, which I teased this show as. I only really have 2 questions for you, and we'll get to those in a minute, right?
Yeah.
but my because just yesterday your podcast interview on the Modern Longevitarian dropped, right?
Right.
So, folks, wherever you listen to your podcast, look up Modern Longevitarian. You get the full backstory on this guy, SunMoon Bay, and how he became a master trainer and all that stuff. So this is like just to tease that and to follow up. And hey, I just enjoy talking to SunMoon. We can talk for hours. So buckle up. We're going to be here. We're going to be here a minute, right? You better go refuel some coffee or something, right? But so what happened was my son and I said, "Hey, we've done the push-ups. Let's do the ab roller." And we're like, okay, we got to set our max, right? That's how this works. You set your max, and then you do a percentage of your max, every hour, or for the actual one, it's like it may be 45 minutes one day or 20 minutes one day, and it changes by percentage and frequency in
Right.
there. And so we set our max, and of course he's 18. I'm like, we're both like judging each other, right? So we get to 20, right? We do 20, set our max. The next day we couldn't do any because we're so sore.
That's normally what happens. Normally what happens when you do
so
those
it wasn't like,
challenges.
hey, I'm going to do 5 today every hour and hour. It was like, I can't do 1, right?
Yes. I remember those. I
Yeah.
remember those challenges. In fact, Scott, this. I do challenges all the time.
Yeah.
Every chance I get. I think I recently just posted. I had a friend of mine, and I did the 50 pull-ups and 100 push-ups, and trying to do them in under 5 minutes. And first of all, let me just say this: if you want to feel jacked and swole in a matter of minutes, just do that. You will feel bodybuilder swole in a matter of seconds. Okay.
Yeah.
But and I just did it flat out right after I really got myself back into doing pull-ups, but man, challenges are just the greatest thing. They're the greatest thing, man. I mean, if you think about everything that we're dealing with and we're going with, and I knew I was going to be on the show this morning.
Right.
I was sitting there and I was thinking, I said, and it hit me, because everybody right now, everybody's talking about, of course, the election. Everybody, everybody's going here and this. And I even talked to my father yesterday about it. My father's an old Marine vet. So we're sitting there and he was telling me what he wanted and what he thought about. And I'm sitting there thinking about, myself. And I did some pull-ups, came back in, looked at my father. I said, you know what? I said, it really doesn't matter to me. And and you say things to your
yeah.
And I'm just, but when you really think of it, Scott, challenge is how we grow.
Yeah.
It's how we grow, thinking of it from a training aspect, from a mental aspect. That's how we grow, no matter what, and for every situation that humanity has been through, because I know people are talking about this is the worst time in our country's history, and 1955, 1960s, the marches for the freedom marches and the civil rights movements, things like that. People thought it was bad. If you go further than that, the Great Depression. If you come up a little bit further, you look at certain things, 9/11. You know what I mean? Go back a little bit further, Vietnam War. We're dealing with these things, and each situation that we're put in is about challenge. How will we as humanity adapt to the challenge? Pandemic 2020. Don't go outside. Oh my God.
Yeah.
How do we adapt to this?
Right.
And I'm a big time kung fu movie and researcher. I love martial arts. I think martial arts are just one of the most amazing things, because if you look at them outside just the fighting aspects, it is so much more. Right. You're dealing with principles that are basically they're life principles. These aren't things that were accidentally, like, hey, that sounds pretty good. No, these are things based on other principles. And when you actually look at the Shaolin monks or anybody that trains, it's all based on life. What's the challenge?
Right.
Why do we sit underneath of a waterfall that's cold, 30 degrees, and 24 degrees, and it's pouring on us, and we try to sit there and meditate, or why do we do the polar bear club? Why do we go and run out, and we face the water and all these elements? Why? Because, like you said, challenge. Growth comes from challenge. Right. That's one of the most important things, man. Is so, I tend to like to challenge myself, as I know you do. These things they're important. They help you adapt.
They do for sure. And so I'll get to my first question now, right? which is what's taking so long for Pennsylvania to count all these votes, right?
Oh boy. I knew that was coming.
Yeah.
I knew it was coming.
Well, you're in Philly, right? So, but here's the thing. It's like, I was like, well, what if we just get all the restaurant managers and chefs that normally take inventory on the first of the month that are really good at counting stuff, right? Really good, right?
Right.
They could even, right. They do this. Some people do it weekly, right? They're furloughed, right? They don't have a job. Send them in there. This stuff will be done like by noon, right? It'll be all reconciled and everything, right? Organized, cleaned up. Right?
That's true.
The whole deal, right?
I mean, honestly, look, everybody has asked me, all my friends who are all over the country, like, what's going on with Pennsylvania? What y'all doing? Don't you all screw this up? I'm like, listen, first of all, the one thing I would say about Philadelphia is, and I have been watching this, we know what's at stake.
Mm.
And it's about being careful.
Yeah.
It's about being careful, and it's about making sure things are done right, especially when you are already told that bad things happen where you're from. You know,
right,
bad things happen. So it's like, at the same time, if you make a statement, if you put a statement out there like that, individuals, the old adage, for every action there's an equal reaction.
Right.
So if you make a statement like that, what's the reaction? The natural reaction is that, because here we're like, well, bad things happen everywhere. But you know what? Because we don't want any bad thing to take place, we're going to take extra care.
Right.
We're going to count all the wait a minute. Whoa, let's run this back again.
Yeah.
That's
right.
The attitude,
Yeah.
Pennsylvanians, we're a very proud state.
Mm.
That's the one thing I can say. And I don't agree with all of my Pennsylvanians, but I do know that we are definitely a very proud state.
That's awesome.
And that's what it is. We know that the start of what is the United States started here.
Right.
And if we're gonna do it, let's do it right.
Yeah.
So,
well, when you're talking about tougher times, right? You stopped the Vietnam War. I grew up in South Carolina. South Carolina was the first, state to succeed from the Union. So you look at Civil War, and you look at what Lincoln had to go through, and the Gettysburg, and more Americans died during that war than any other war in history. Yep. And you look at where you're from, in Philly, right? I mean, that's where the whole thing started, 1776, right? The Constitution and the Liberty Bell and Ben Franklin, all those things, so many things, right? And you think about how, like, if you watch the movie The Patriot, right? And you talk about, what was it like in the Revolutionary times when England was here fighting to keep their colonies, and we're fighting to have, representation, or avoid taxation without representation, And I actually posted something from this French philosopher of the time back then. I posted this actually on election day, which is, we should just call it election week now, right? Because there's no election day. We still don't know, and it's Friday, right? Who's going to be the next president, right? So no, it doesn't matter. And I said, at the end of all of this, are we still Americans? And I put question mark, right? Because but the quote is from Voltaire, and I think actually he's credited with this, but he may not have said it. An author was summing up his philosophy, but this is it. I may not agree with what you say, but I'll fight to the death for your right to say it. Right. And I've never seen, now I was born in 1972, right? Which was 3 years after the Civil Rights, Act was passed. And I don't have many memories up until probably like 1978, right? Because most people, we don't remember a lot of stuff, right? Early on, because our brains are they're in theta, right? They're not in the, delta and things like that. But my point being is that this is the most divided I've ever seen our country, right? In my lifetime, right? I can see where there would be division, and more division, with Martin Luther King and all of those things happening with the marches and those things, right? Because that's division, right? And we still have lingering impact of racism and sexism and, gender,
Prejudice and all those.
you
Yeah,
know, gender things and stuff like that, right? We still have that stuff, right? And it's and I can't, gosh, I'm nowhere near going to be able to predict when any of that stuff's going to change, right? It's going to change with our kids, probably grandkids, maybe more so than it will with us, because there's people just set in their ways, right?
that's true.
And which is unfortunate, right? But when somebody's flying the opposition's flag for presidential candidate, when did the response come? F you, right? Right.
Well,
If you pull for the other, if you want to vote opposite of the person who has something on their car, right?
right.
I've seen this, right? I've experienced, like, they're like, somebody just rolled their window down. They flip the bird and then they say F you. And where did the debate go? Where did it go where somebody could say, you know what? I don't agree with the candidate you're going to vote for. And I'm okay with that because I'll fight to the death for your right to vote for whoever you want to vote for.
But see, it's interesting that you said that, Scott, because when you deal with individuals like that, and I know some, you may know some, the whole thing of it is that what's the underlying emotion or the underlying feeling? Like, I'll give you an example. I have plenty of associates who are very much do not like, or I don't say that they have an immense hatred, but they do not like law enforcement or police because of their experiences.
Right.
Now, I have relatives and friends who are serving and have served.
Right.
I myself have been the victim of situations where it was unfair treatment by the police. The thing of it is the balance. All right. This is where it's very, very important for us as human beings to deal with the facts, to deal with truth, and to deal with the situation of being balanced and making sure, okay, yes, there's a system in place. What's going on with the system? What's going on with these individuals? Are all police bad? No. That's just like saying all human beings are bad, and you can't make that,
Right.
Are there some officers that definitely take their mentality as they are the law? Definitely.
Right. Yeah.
Now, what's the fact? Are they the law, or are they the custodians of the law?
Right.
Are they the ones that are meant to uphold the laws? We're the ones, you, me, everybody, the citizens of the United States. We're the ones that create these laws. All of us together. We sit there, we agree, we disagree. I want this, you don't want that. We go through our process, and then they are the ones that come in and like, listen, can't do that. Now, we have to start dealing with the mentality of, are you the law, or are you the custodian of the law? Are you the upholder of the law? See, because there's a different mentality when you start taking that Judge Dredd mentality. All right, and I hope everybody understands where I'm taking this from, because it's that scene in the movie where they ask him, he's like, I am the law. It's like, no, you're not. You know what I mean?
Right.
When we get to that mentality, there is an ownership. You do as I tell you to. How dare you?
Right.
I am this.
Right.
You're not.
Right.
You're not. We collectively are that.
Right.
You are the one that's been placed in this position by us to help enforce that.
Right.
And we have to maintain that. Now, the problem of it is when you get the separation, and this is always separation for a purpose. That's the funny thing about this. And in history, and I want to touch on this because it's such an open topic. We have a very, very, we have been taught dealing with current history that there's a separation between European, African, Asian, that we have long been like, oh no, we don't, and it wasn't always like that.
Right.
It wasn't like that. If you look at the history of Rome, Rome had African soldiers, generals, scholars working for the government
Right.
who were in power, and everybody was like, "Hey, how you doing? Hey, slavery was put in place, and there were slaves, but you could be a slave of any ethnicity, depending on what you were coming from.
Mm.
Were you poor?
Mm.
You know, were you kidnapped? There's different situations. This mentality that there's always been a, no pun intended, black and white, because I truly don't buy
Right.
into that nonsense,
Right.
is just that. We have always mixed, associated, traveled, traded, but
Right.
now here's the trick. Here's where the interesting thing comes along. Just like that, you have individuals like, well, I don't want to deal with them. That's fine. That's fine. You have
Right.
that right. But when that individual, if you notice, it's always the individuals or entities that's like, well, they hate you. This is going on with that. And it brings up other things. Why? You have to look at why. There's a divisiveness. There's a
Right.
separation. And the separation is, while we're all at each other, what's at stake? What's being controlled? What's being taken away from all of us?
Right.
Who is up there gathering more power, or what entity is gathering more power while everybody's down here? And you can look at any empire and you see that basically it falls because its core principles start becoming eroded. Why? Because somebody's putting in something that's just like, well, we're better than,
Right.
or we're not dealing with you. You're below us. Really?
Right.
That's interesting. That's the separation.
It is, right? And I think that, and what I have gone on record and said is that the one thing we've learned multiple things from this pandemic, right? I think the thing that we all should learn from this is that it proves that we are all one, right?
True.
Doesn't matter race, nationality, any of those things, right? We are all one, right? And because, even though you could break down what age group or demographic or, whether somebody is, what underlying conditions they have may have more impact for them if they have COVID or any of those type of things, right? We're all impacted by this.
Yes, we
right?
are.
It doesn't matter where it started, right? Trump can call it the China, plague if he wants, right? That's fine. It started there, but my saying is, what can you learn from this, right? What can we learn from this? And that's where one, you and I are connected,
That's
right?
right.
I'm in Utah, you're in Philly, right?
Yep.
We're connected. And it could be that somebody was in Italy, right? Flew through your part of the country, infects people in your part of the country, lands in my part of the country, and comes to visit my city a week later and infects people here too, right?
Right.
We're all connected, right, in this. Or somebody that was infected by them in Philly can come here, right? It could be those things, right? Even 6 feet away, we're connected.
That's right.
You can still smell the perfume and cologne on people 6 feet away.
That's true.
You can.
That's true.
So if you can smell that, you can also contract whatever they have, right, from that distance.
That's right.
And so we're all one, right? We're all one, right? And what we do sends a ripple effect out into the world, right? And
It's
what
the butterfly
earlier, what was that?
It's the butterfly effect.
Butterfly effect, or you could get into where you talked about every action has an equal and opposite reaction, because basically it's a reflective universe. What we put out into the world comes back to us.
Very true.
If you're going through the checkout line at your local grocery store and you put out kindness and peace and love, that's where you're going to get back from the cashier, right? But if you put out hate and dropping F-bombs because they have a opposite, opposing candidates pin on their jacket, right, or whatever, you're going to get back what you put in the world, right? So those are the things, right, that are
very
there.
true.
Right.
We have to really start paying attention to these things, and consciousness is one.
Right.
Staying conscious. It's funny because we they say stay woke, but what are you staying woke to? You have to
Right.
stay woke to consciousness. Consciousness is indeed, you know, like you said, we're one.
Right.
We're affected. I, my if I have a child at some point, down the line, more than likely, you never know, might enter, or interact with your great grandchild
Right.
at some point, and they might have the cure that saves everyone.
Yeah.
I
Right.
mean, the truth of it is,
Right.
humanity is a family.
Mm.
We're a family.
Right.
I
Yeah,
mean, we are
exactly.
on this planet. We're a family. We might not want to admit it, but
Right.
we're brothers and sisters.
Right. Exactly. We're
you
all,
know,
I mean, we like, even like on a macro scale, you could say we're Americans, right? But we break it down so many ways. Oh, you're an East Coaster, you're an American, you're from
yeah,
Pennsylvania. Then it goes, you're from Philly. Then you have whatever neighborhood you grew up in Philly, right?
exactly.
That, and then it goes down to like what high school you went to, right? We can just, and then, I know your family's from Morocco, right? And so you break it down that way. Then it goes into, how you eat, right? I'm a carnivore, I'm a vegan, I'm a pescatarian, I'm a flexitarian, I'm blah, 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 blah. We label so many things, right? And try to fit people into this one little thing. And it's like, that's what I love about this show. I never expected I would have a conversation like this with you today
Right.
on this show when I started this a month ago, right?
Exactly.
Never had that. So let's take a break here. I'm going to tease some shows for next week and try to get people to go to my website to download a book. So just hold on 1 second here, and I'll be back with you. Okay.
All right.
All right. So I want to tease some shows for next week, right? So I do 5 shows a week, Monday through Friday, 12 noon Eastern time. And first of all, I want to say thanks to SunMoon for coming on the show. I was on his podcast about 18 months ago. And then he just released yesterday on my podcast, Modern Longevitarian. And so I just want to thank him for coming on Monday, which I normally don't have a guest on Monday. So I'm gonna do a little switcheroo on you. I'm going to have my friend, Jason Teague. He is the creator of the Thoracic Mobility Bar, which is launching this week. I just got off the phone with him this morning prior to the show, and he's going to be on a guest, and we're going to talk about thoracic mobility and what his new project is. And on Tuesday, so I moved my normal monologue on Monday to Tuesday, and it's going to be how to coach your restaurant like a championship winning football team. So I'm going to really break that down for you. And those of you who worked with me over the years have heard me give this explanation of how the structure of a restaurant matches that of a football team. And we'll do that on Wednesday. Now, this past Wednesday, if you want to go back and how ketogenic diet is not a 6-day challenge, that just aired a couple days ago. Now, this Wednesday coming on my Biohack Whack Wednesday is going to be how I combine the ketogenic lifestyle with intermittent fasting. And I call this the Keto SS 421. And SS could be Scott Stanfield, or it could be Supersport, like the old Monte Carlo Supersport 454, which is where the inspiration for that title came from, which is Keto SS 421. So that's what we're going to do on Thursday. Daryl Balshart from Redmond. Now they make real salt and they mine bentonite clay. So this is a ancient seabed salt that's mined here in Utah. And I know the owner of the company, Rhett Roberts, and an affiliate for the company as well. And we're going to have him on and talk about everything Redmond and the history of the mining and the salt here. This comes from an all-American sea salt that is so unique. So if you're a chef and you're looking for a finishing salt that's American made, tune in on Thursday next week for that. And then on Friday, body transformation expert. Seems like I got all these these trainers coming on Fridays, just like SunMoon today. But Russ Yeager is going to be on the show. He was actually episode, I think, number 2 or 3 on the Modern Longevitarian podcast. We're going to bring him on the live show. It's my Friday, next Friday, 1 week from today. And so I'm super excited to have him on and see about what's going on in his world. I know he's got something going on with Grant Cardone. So he's on the up and up, with those type of things. And so I'm excited to have him on the show. Now, no matter what you do, no matter where you are in the world, you are human. As just as we said, we are one. And the most important thing you can do for your health and your wellness and your fitness is sleep. So that's why I wrote the book called Outstanding Landing. And it will help you get the sleep of your dreams. Excuse me, I got a cough. And so you can get that book at sleep.strongforlonger.com. sleep.com, sleep.strongforlonger.com. And I want you to think about this. Intermittent fasting and long-term fasting is really hitting a trend now. And you can skip a meal, skip a day, skip a meal, skip a day of food, and you're going to be fine. Totally fine. There's even what people call monk fast, which is a 36-hour fast. And at certain times, I do that every week where I'm fasting for 36 hours every week. And then also you can skip your exercise. You can skip your workout for the day. You may not want to, but you can, and you'll be fine. But do this. Try staying up all night long and see how you're going to feel in the morning, right? Not so good. You're going to be cranky. You're going to be hungry. You're not going to be satisfied. You're going to be dehydrated. And no matter how much caffeine or coffee you drink, is not going to help, right? It's just because sleep deprivation is one of the worst things that can happen. So sleep is more important than diet and exercise alone. And so again, sleep.strongforlonger.com or modernlongevitarian.com/sleep, right? So, all right, let's get back to the normal scheduled program here. SunMoon, we're going to bring you back here. And all right, so there was my commercial live, right? For next week. Gosh, I have a question, a burning question I wanted to ask you, right? So,
Okay.
You're vegan. I know you're vegan. And when I think of food and foodie food from Philadelphia, I think of Philly cheesesteaks.
I knew you was gonna say that.
So how in the world, I've been wanting to ask you this for a long time. How in the world have you lived in Philly all this time and not have a Philly cheesesteak, right?
Well, all right. So I've had versions of it, but
Right.
you have to understand, again, my family, we're Moorish, all right, which is
Right.
Moroccan descent, born in the United States, all right, and we have our own cultural diet.
Mm-hmm.
So I grew up basically in the beginning pescatarian.
Okay.
Now, with that being said, living in Philly, there are many vegetarian restaurants. All right. And they have their own versions of a cheesesteak. But I'm going to be honest with you. There are a lot of things that are Philadelphian that I'm just like, nah,
Right.
never really cared about. The cheesesteak was one of them. I just never. And I would go out with my friends and we would hang out and they're like, oh, we got to go to Pat's, or we got to go to this, and we got to, well, I'm going to go to this place to get a cheesesteak. And I was always a pizza guy.
All right.
Now, if you had to tell me, Philly pizza, and this was a burning thing for my friends from New York, because New York pizza, Chicago pizza, and I was like, well, Philly pizza needs to be in this conversation.
Right.
So I was always the pizza guy. So I was never really a big cheesesteak fan.
Right. Well, I married a New Yorker, so I know the whole fanfare about a slice and New York pizza and how nothing in the world compares. And unless it's from Italy, right? We got to go there and all that stuff. And I grew up eating Pizza Hut and Papa John's and Godfather's Pizza. I had no idea what New York style pizza was.
Oh
right?
my gosh. And it's funny, like you said, Italian pizza, they look at the pizza in the United States and they're like, what's that?
Right.
What is that? It's like, that's not pizza. It's funny, but yeah, that's a big thing. That was always mine.
What's different about Philly style pizza? I haven't heard anything about it.
So a good Philly style pizza, the last time I had one, which was years ago, it's the even vegan style. It's a very crispy crust. Crispy crust, it's it can't be a doughy, rigid crust, it's got to almost be like pie crust, just a notch above. The cheese has to be extra stringy, extra gooey, oh man, I'm salivating just talking about it. And just has to have the right blend of herbs and spices, and when you bite it, it has to be crunchy and melty and just almost evaporate and be gooey in your mouth. That is a perfect Philly slice of pizza. Now I've had New York's pizza and I was like, I don't know what this is. I'm not impressed.
Yeah. Well, we are fans of what we grew up eating, right?
Very true.
True. And it's so funny because my wife, when we met, and she still is to this day, is pescatarian, right? And we ventured off and had some Weston A. Price, experience eating meat and things like that. I'm more plant-based now than I have been in years, right?
Right.
And like I got asked last night via text because I post a lot of vegan plant-based stuff online, and it's like, are you eating any meat now? I'm like, yeah, on Sunday. I have like 4 to 6 ounces, like on Sunday, right? That's
Right.
it, right? We're like, really? Yeah. I'm like, well, I'm switching over to a longevitarian diet versus, just keto, which is just gaming the system one way, right? I'm still
Right.
leaning keto, right? But I haven't had a legitimate pizza in 3.5 years, right?
Right.
I've had keto versions of that I've made, right? Fathead dough, and I've made pizza out of chicken breast when I was carnivore, ish, leaning that way, where egg and cheese and 3 ingredients, right? It's pretty cool, right? Chicken
Right.
breast, egg, and Parmesan cheese, and you can make a crust, right? And I've made that a bunch, right? But I'm not in that realm right now. But
Right.
it's but like I grew up, I remember going to Pizza Hut or Godfather's Pizza, and my dad was like, everything, thick crust, pan pizza, everything on it but anchovies. And I didn't even know what an anchovy was. I just know that we didn't like them. Right.
Okay.
Yeah. No clue what it was, right? Just no anchovies. Now I love anchovies, right? I mean, Caesar salad and this little small fish, and this, it's salty, and this, big
Right.
in Mediterranean cuisine, right? And but so it's like, so switching me over to a cheese only pizza, occasionally with mushrooms, right? It was a tough one, because I was used to having red peppers, bell peppers, black olives, meat lover, every meat lover topping on there, double cheese, double sauce,
Oh,
right?
wow.
Yeah. It's like, so yeah, stuff. But I migrated to a thin crust because I didn't want it to fill up on all the dough, right? Back in
Right.
the day
Right.
when I was, in my early 20s. So my first question took up the first half of the thing, and now we're segueing into this. And the Philly cheesesteak wasn't a scripted question. It's just something that's always been in my back of my mind. So I just want to follow my intuition and ask you that, right? But I tease this show as how can you find your own unique wellness or health and fitness journey,
Right.
right? And we live in this world of one size fits all. There's a silver bullet I want to take. There's in farmers, medicine, there's like one pill for every ill type thing, right? In those things. So, and you mentioned your culture, your family history, how you grew up and those things, and lean against, that. So I think there's nobody better to ask this question to. So how can somebody start down the path of finding their own unique health, wellness, fitness journey?
Wow, that's a great question. So first things first is know what your purpose is.
Mm,
And that's with anything. And if you don't know what your purpose is, whether it's in life, whether it's in business, whether it's in a relationship, whether it's in your health, you're gonna walk around in circles, because everything at some point is going to seem valid.
mm,
Oh man, if you're trying to get fit and you look and you see somebody that's maybe built up, really strong, you're like, yeah, I want to look like that. Or you see somebody that's ripped and a little smaller, I want to kind of look like that. And it's know what your purpose is,
mm,
know what you're trying to accomplish and why.
right.
If you are know what your health is like, have a good idea of what your health is like and what you want to make it better. If you're trying to hike, if you know
Mhm,
you like to hike, so what is it that you're going to have to do so that you have the strength, the energy, the endurance, the ability to do everything that is necessary to hike?
mm,
It's really having that clear cut view of you, and also be able to shut off social media,
mm,
shut out all other views, all other things that are going on, because we one of the negatives that take place in life is the fact of, we're taught, we're sold things at an early age. If you
mm.
if you look at it, and I can take this all the way back to when we were children, and for me, I always like to take it back to the 80s, because cartoons were just golden, you know,
Right. Yeah.
they were golden.
Yeah.
And what did you do with your cartoons? You on a Saturday was cartoon day, and you had to sit and watch it, and you had to have your bowl of cereal,
Mhm.
and then you sat and you watched it, and you had to have the toy of the cartoon you were watching because you felt connected. Well,
Right.
fast forward 2020, you learn things. They've had documentaries. I know that I was sold that
Mm.
by a corporation.
Right.
So what, even though it's a very fond memory, a warm memory in my heart, what is the honest truth behind it? This is something that was perpetuated.
Mm-hmm.
So again, what is it that I really need? We need to get away from these things of other things being taught to us, being implanted into us, and really figuring out who we are as a person in order to
Right.
find our individual health goals, our individual health style.
Right.
Because like you said before, I may want to eat plant-based with certain things, but it doesn't mean that I'm supposed to be totally a vegan.
Right.
I may have some type of health ailment that says I might need fish oil.
Right.
So what am I gonna do?
Right. Right.
It-
Right. Right.
it's those type of things. We have to be aware and open ourselves up.
Right. There's a couple things to that, right? Is that, and I quote Zach Bush, MD, on this, and he says there's 4 million different versions of you, right? Like, for instance, the other day, my comment to your Instagram about you doing the pull-ups, knowing that you're, vegan, right? I said, nobody should ever ask you where you get your protein from because you're doing just fine, right? That's someone like me who's more mostly, that's calisthenics, right? But I don't do
Right.
any heavy lifting. I don't go to a gym. And I have a 70-pound kettlebell that I swing. But I'm doing a lot of things like chopping and cutting wood, getting ready for the winter now. And
Right.
I worked out once this week, but I converted to a stand-up desk. So I burnt more calories long-term without working out this week by standing for the whole day. I'm sitting right now, but once this is over, because of the height of this, I'll stand back up and I'll get to doing that. Right.
Right.
So, whatever you like, so there's 4 million different things. And so, like, for instance, when I was forming the different versions of you, so there is in you and in me, there's a 50, 100-pound overweight type 2 diabetic version of us.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh yeah.
There is, right. There's also, like, you could use Rich Roll's example, right? He was overweight, having heart problems, doing all that stuff, and collapsed and those things. He stops drinking, and he had already stopped drinking, changed his diet, became a vegan, became one of the fittest people on the freaking planet, right? From 40 pounds overweight to fittest person on the planet, same genes,
That's
different
right.
genetic expression, right? Right. And so
What he needed.
barring any injury or any of those things, if you got a bad knee, you're not, it's going to be hard for you to, unless you get a replacement, to go out and say, hey, at 50, I'm going to go and become an endurance athlete. You can, but you're going to just suffer on a high level to get to that point and really work some things out. Maybe it's not possible for you, but at one point in your life, that version of you existed inside of you.
That's true.
There's an MMA fighter in all of us, right? There is a endurance athlete in us, right? There's a weightlifter in us, a power lifter, and there's a type 2 cancer-ridden, 100-pound overweight version of us as well, right?
And
inside of every one of us.
That's that balance. But that's that balance, Scott. And that's the wonderful thing about it, is that, again, what do you want to bring out?
Right.
What do you truly want to bring out? Do you want to bring out your bodybuilder? Do you want to bring out your power lifter? Do you want to bring out your fighter? Because you're right. It's in all of us.
Right.
And it's not, it has nothing to do with gender, or sex, I should say,
Unless it's glute day for a girl, right? That's another whole thing, right?
Hey, listen, I've seen some things on social media recently, and I'm just like, it's whatever you choose.
Unfollow.
I mean, hey, listen, I say live your life the way you want to live it, but you're right. It's your choice.
Right.
It's so your choice, and it's whatever you choose to bring forth.
Right.
We are, man, human beings, we are a seed unto itself.
Mm.
When you think about, again, when we're born, the creation of us, the parents come together, and we're put together, and then we're born. But we're a seed that continues to keep blossoming.
Mhm.
And we can blossom in any direction. We can blossom negatively, we can blossom positively, we can blossom in one way and then switch courses.
Yes.
Now, isn't that's amazing?
Well,
That is
like,
amazing.
that's called a pivot, right? That's what that's
Yeah,
called these days, right? You know,
that's
and
right.
there's a great quote from Zen Shi says, "A flower just blooms without worrying about the flower next to it."
That's right.
Right. And so you're blooming in your way, right? And we can learn and model and learn from other people, right? But who Sun Moon Bay is Sun Moon Bay. By the way, Carla Wiley, she put in a comment and I've added up for a second. She says, hello, hi, Sun Moon Bay. Right.
Hi, Carla, how are you?
thanks for watching in, Carla, in the show. But so the thing is that, it's like hopefully blossomed as a restaurant general manager and food director of food and beverage at hospitals and oil refineries and 4-star autograph collection, Marriott, boutique hotels, right? That I blossom as at. And on a parallel path at the same time, I was creating this whole pillar system for the model longevitarian to help me optimize my performance day in and day out in that
Right.
super stressful environment. Well, now I'm doing, is dropping that part of it. And we're actually combining the two. I don't know if you heard me teasing my shows next week, right? So
Yeah.
next week I've got, two people who focus on fitness this week, and like you today, right? Have Farmer Lee Jones a couple weeks ago or last week for sustainable farming, right? And so I'm in that, and also I had a leadership author who wrote one of the top 10 books on leadership in the history of books, retired Navy Captain David Marquet, right? Talking about intent-based leadership. So all of these things come into being a longevitarian, right? All these things fit, right?
That's right.
And those things. So Carla has a question for us. And Carla, first off, let me start that Sun Moon and I, neither one of us are doctors. So this is for informational purpose on you. You go see your doctor before you do anything that we may give you advice on when it comes to this. But you're asking, what advice do you give someone recovering from cardiac issues? Right.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Well, first
again,
of all, take it easy, right? That's a tough thing to do, right? And when you get to that level, because what we really do is optimize people, I think, that are already healthy, right? Where we start there. So I think listening to what your doctor says has the first thing. Now, I worked and I'll turn this over to Sun Moon in a second, but I worked at a hospital as a director of food and beverage. And the doctors, when the patients were in with cardiac issues, actually would prescribe diets for people. And we couldn't serve them food if it wasn't on the prescribed diet, right? And so I think really understanding the impact of not only just food will have on your body, but also the impact of the healing aspect of fasting, right, is really going to be another thing to do that. Your sleep's going to be super important and be well rested, because your heart rate variability can change when you don't get enough sleep, or if you're in stressful situations or physically stressed in that way. And so doing some sort of meditation to mitigate stress or something like that, breathing exercises through your nose, being a nose breather, making sure that you're sending calming signals to your nervous system and getting you out of sympathetic and in parasympathetic system, which is rest, relaxation, digesting, those type of things. But Sun Moon, I don't know if you have any basic, not advice, but we're not doctors, right?
No. And Carla, I would say again, follow what the doctors tell you, what the physicians tell you. The one bit of advice, and this is, I would say, general advice I would give to anyone, is the fact of stay away from things that are agitating. And when I say agitating, I mean something like social media, something, if you can stay stress wise, monitor stress. That would be the biggest thing I can say, because stress has so many different effects on our body, and it can affect your heart as well. So definitely, calm breathing. Scott already talked about that, rest, stay, those would be the things I would say are the most, I think, immediate beneficial, and everything else is something that your physician will be able to give you more in-depth information on. But again, one thing that's going to definitely help, stay away from things that are going to aggravate you. You know, if you can, you know, if it's being around a person that's negative, you might, you know, if you can find a way, listen, look, I need to change spaces, you know, because those are things that are so important. And honestly, I'm actually glad of this question, because it's kind of segues into a thought I was also having this morning, which is the fact of, we need to start re-looking at how we see health and fitness. It's not just a small section of life. It's everything.
Right.
You know, it's the election. It's the media. It's our interreactions, you know, because it starts here. Everything starts in your mind, you know, and if we don't start looking at things as though, okay, it's going to affect us here, and then it's going to affect us here in our bodies. We have to start looking at that. There's so many people across the globe, I should say, and specifically in our country right now, that have anxiety, anger, stress, you know. Now, the thing of it is those three things that I just spoke about are going to affect the body. Now, how they affect the body depends on diet, depends on environment, depends on the water, depends on the air, depends on if they're getting that rest, depends on if they're able to take time to properly breathe, if they know how to properly breathe, if they're getting the exercise that they need. All of those things are very stressful to the body. And we have to remember these things. And a lot of people, they take it as though, you know, oh, later in life. No, it starts now. And it's very quick. We tend to think that it's not that quick. It's extremely quick. We just don't always see what's taking place to our bodies until it's literally, you know, to that point, it's almost too late.
Right.
So, you know, to get back to that's what I would say, you know, just keep calm if you can.
Right. I would also say look into the work of Dr. Joe Dispenza. One of his books is You Are the Placebo, right? Just and what happens is that, like, for instance, you can read like, well, there's studies. It's proven. They've done studies on studies that shows that 80% of the people who are in the blind, which are getting the sugar pills, think that the pill's working for them and fixing them, and they're not actually taking the drug. Right. So what happens is that, you know, if you're stressed, right, or those type of things, realize that you are the placebo, right? Meaning that you can change the inner workings of your body, just like SunMoon said, with mindset. And it's almost like you're talking about these 8 pillars of being a modern longevitarian, right? All of these things don't cost you anything, really, right? And they influence your genetic expression, right? So what happens is someone with cardiac issues, right? They have their genetic expression. Like I not so jokingly say that there's a 50 to 100 pound type 2 diabetic version of myself and a version of you in the world, right? So Carla's genes are expressing themselves in a way that are producing cardiac issues, right? And so it is a combination of all those things: her mindset, her breathing, her hydration, which hydration actually shows 73% of Americans are chronically dehydrated. And one of the things that causes, because the bloods are thicker, is cardiac issues. So it may be hydration, maybe something. Really pay attention to that. And so, because the blood, you think about this, if the oil in your engine in your car is too thick, right? It actually, the pump will not pump it.
That's right.
And your engine will seize, right? And so what happens is you have to have the right type of weight of oil in your engine so it will actually work the right way. So you can go too thin and you can go too thick, right? You want the perfect one for what's happening there, which is, there's all these different things. So Carla said she had an AFib attack and they couldn't find anything wrong with her because I'm following the doctor's directions. So, and then she said, thank you for the advice, right? You know, with that. And so I just really, the whole mission of being a modern longevitarian is really to get people the understanding that they have agency or they have control over their genetic expression, right?
Right.
And that's what we've been talking about for this last, 15 minutes, is that there's different versions of ourselves and we can choose to do that. And your habits are created this version of you that is looking back in the mirror in you this morning, right?
That's true.
Right.
That's true. It's
You know,
it's consistency in what we're doing and being mindful of what we're doing. And
right.
that's another thing, it's very easy to say these things, and again, the pandemic, pulling out the positives that we can pull from it, is the fact of what did it do? Well, now we have to stay home.
Right.
Now we have to look at what we're doing, Oh, should we go out and eat as much? What am I fixing when I'm at home? Who am I around?
Right.
There's a twofold thing here. There are the individuals who have gained anxiety from being at home, and maybe they were more social, or maybe they're uncomfortable now of going out in the public. And let's think of the flip side. There are individuals that had high anxiety going out in public,
Right.
and now they're like, I feel more comfortable. I'm in a safer atmosphere, or they might feel a safer atmosphere.
Right.
So let's start looking at these things as far as, well, what makes you feel uncomfortable? Let's really start asking these questions. Let's really start dealing with our fitness, our health, in a more 360 viewpoint, because that's what we're really talking about.
Right.
We're looking at from a whole circle of our health and our fitness. It's not just one little specific nook. What I mean? It's
Right.
Once we start looking at it like in that way, we can start to see everything is so connected in that. Everything we're doing, our interreactions, are they healthy?
Right.
Are they? What are we talking about?
Right.
You said something earlier, and I was thinking about it, and this. We've had conversations before. I'm a '90s hip hop fan.
Right.
I love '90s hip hop. I love all music, but when I think of the music, first of all, there's a chorus. It repeats. You know what I mean? There's a chorus.
Yeah.
There's a 4-bar chorus. It repeats. It's a hook to the song. Gets in your head. The raps. You repeat them. You play them over and over. It's the mantra.
Right.
So what is it that we're telling ourselves? 90s punk. Punk music. Nirvana.
Right.
Love Nirvana.
Right.
Love Nirvana.
Right.
If you listen to some of the lyrics,
Right.
what is it saying? What is it really? We get into the emotion of it and the sentimentality of it, but let's really take it apart.
Right.
And that's what everything. We really have to start taking apart everything and looking at our fitness and health, and what are we really allowing ourselves to get involved in?
Well, what are we thinking? What are we telling ourselves, right? Well, I could never be that weight again. I can't lose weight. I'm not good enough. I'm not strong enough. I'm too old. I don't have enough time. Like the original, not the original, but the P90X version, you were doing an hour and 15 minutes of that. Then you made P90X2 and it didn't do anything. And Tony Horton made P90X3 and it was all 30 minutes because it was solving that. P90X is too long to help maintain that. So how are you going to do it? And so you can tell yourself all these limiting beliefs, over and over and over and over again, right? I don't have it. But we make time for what's important to us, right?
That's
we really
true.
do, right? And yes, you don't have enough time, but you also don't have enough time to do that, to eat a bag of potato chips either, right? Sit on the couch watching whatever you're binging on. You're binging on whatever your snack food you are, and you're binging on Netflix at the same time. You could have worked out during that time.
That's right.
And I think we talked about this before, maybe, but my dad was a truck driver growing up, and then I briefly worked for a truck stop company. Has multiple, and the saying is that people who drive trucks, like those over the road trucks, not my dad, but over the road trucks, like I just don't have time to do it. Well, legally, you're only supposed to like drive your truck for, I think it's like 8 or 10 hours a day.
That's right. That's right.
Hello, right?
That's right.
You can walk around that parking lot like 14 times, right? But instead they go hit the buffet, eat all the wrong foods that are for them. And then they say, I don't have enough time. And you're like, yeah, you could have skipped a meal, right? and just because you sit down all day behind a steering wheel, and I'm not bashing on truck drivers because I love
No.
truck drivers, right? And my dad tried to get me to be one a couple times, right? But but my point is this, right? Is that we do have time. We do have the opposite of whatever limiting belief you're telling yourself. If you think you're not good enough, as Henry Ford said, if you think you can or you can't, you're right.
That's right.
Right. But if you think you have enough time, you're right. If you don't think you have enough time, you're right. Right. If you think you're not good enough, you're right. And I told this story before too, and I think it was to you, right? It was about I'm a Hootie and the Blowfish fan, right?
Oh
And I
yeah.
was on the Darius Rucker carpool karaoke show.
Yeah.
Apple TV season 3, episode 1. That's me. My goatee was a little bit thicker then, right? And I was a little bit thicker then. I'm thinned down a little bit since then. But my point being is this: like on their first album that was a hit, Crack Review, song number 10 is called "Not Even the Trees." Right? Very depressing song, right? Nobody's listening to me, not even the trees, right? I don't listen to that song anymore because it puts in the external mantra that nobody's listening to my live show, right? Or nobody's listening to my podcast, or nobody's listening to my mission, which is that you have agency over your genetic expression, right?
That's right.
I want people to listen to that. And I don't want that limiting belief coming in that says, nobody's listening to me, not even the trees, right? So no, there's lots of people who listen to this and they chime in and, and all of those things. And so be careful what you put in your ears because that really impacts what you're thinking, right? And so it really boils down to self-regulation, right? Regulating your own thoughts, right?
Former heavyweight boxer Shannon Briggs, the Let's Go champ. And shout out to Shannon Briggs. He's a great individual. I love the things that he puts out there. But they asked him. They said, Shannon, what do you listen to now? Because he still trains just to keep himself fit. And they asked him, they said, what do you listen to? He said, instrumentals. He said, all instrumentals. He said, because I can't take the chance that I'm going to allow something into my mind. He said, I listen to something, whereas I might used to listen when I was younger. It's like, go kill him up. He said, now I'm got this mentality. He said, and I'm a fighter. He said, so, knowing what I know now about me and what I know about my mind, I'm not going to do that. He said, so I listen to an instrumental, I train, I enjoy my training. He said, but I don't want to hear anybody else's thought that they're putting in the music.
That's big. That's huge. Really big. Well, for our normally scheduled program, you and me, we have another 3 hours and 47 minutes together, right? Yeah, but for everybody else, we probably need to end it here, right? And so we can wrap this up. And so where can people find the De La Fit podcast and SunMoon Bay online?
So you can listen to the De La Fit podcast on Spotify. We are on iTunes. We are available on Google Play. We are on YouTube. We are now entering the Roku television, so you'll be able to actually see us. We had Scott, he was a guest on the show, so you'll be able to see all of the interviews. And plus, we are going to eventually be getting into live, but not right now. But those are the places where you can find us. And we're currently revamping the website, which is delafitpodcast.com. So that should be up within, let me see, this is November. So by December, it should be up and running.
Got it. Yeah, it's funny. I recorded a podcast the other day, and I've done so many live shows in the last month. It was hard. It's a slight different way of doing that, right?
Yes.
Of that, because it's just a different thing, right? Because you can't reference something that's happening in the world today, right? You have to like make an evergreen style thing where you're talking about different type of things, right? And yeah, well, man, I can't thank you enough for coming on. We're gonna we can fit it in your schedule. You're such a busy guy. I mean, master trainer and all of these things, right? I know you got clients and you got to do pull-ups, right? You got to work on your pull-ups, right?
I'll probably do some in another few minutes.
Yeah. Right. I'm gonna I was writing some stuff this morning, so I only got some breathing exercises and some push-ups in this morning on so I'm gonna complete my morning workout when we're done here and then get going. And But also you can find SunMoon Bay is going to be on modernlongevitarian.com or strongforlonger.com is how you can get there easier. I'm going to post that on the website today. And again, that podcast is posted on all your favorite podcast platforms. I'm not on Roku, but we are on LinkedIn Live right now. We're on YouTube Live. We're on Facebook Live. And so Carl, just to wrap this up, Carla left one more comment. She says, I'm learning balance and this has affirmed it. And
Definitely.
so that's really the key, is finding balance in all of these things, right? And finding what works for you, right? And understanding, Carla, that you, just like everybody else, you're no different, that your genetic expression is something that you have control over.
That's
and
right.
You can change, right? And that's proof. I'm not the only one to prove it. SunMoon's not the only one to prove it. There's been so many people who've proven this in the past. So if you want to hang out for a second, we'll wrap up. I'm going to switch over to, we're just going to wrap it up. We're an hour, 16 minutes in, and I'm just going to play the outro. And thanks for tuning in. SunMoon Bay, De La Fit podcast, one of my favorite podcasts to listen to. So check him out and we'll go from there. So thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome.